Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. Today, we will be discussing the habits and some of the good water-saving technologies, and we will be able to calculate how much water we can save if we use it wisely, right? So today is one of the last lectures. It will be a combination of day 5 and day 6. So at the end, we will also talk about possible future careers in the sector of water. Yeah. So basically, in fact, small changes can lead to big impact, right? And today we're going to talk about them. And one of the small changes that I would like to talk about would be yes, would be the irrigation of lawns inside of the cities. When you walk around the city or like Tashkent, Samarkand, or any other city around Uzbekistan, do you notice how our cities are irrigated? The lawns, usually when you see the lawns, there will be, it's not visible in this picture. Is it visible here? Oh, yes. Usually there is something like this greenish thing, the tube that is dug underground, but and also it stuck, the upper side is stuck on the upper the ground, above the ground, and it basically sprays the water all over the place. And usually what is the case with them is that either the flow of water is wrong or the positioning of these things is wrong, because all the time what we notice that instead of irrigating the lawn, they irrigate the bare asphalt. For example, you can notice it's a very sunny day and all the water has been wasted on these asphalts, and it's not wise. We have the water and we are wasting it. And not only this, we are wasting so much water that is flowing here. All the water from grassroots is being collected and flowed through these ditches. This one is also not correct. All the water should not be flowing like this. And the worst part is that this one, the water that is flowing through these tubes, is actually a drinking water. Yes. Or the same place, you can see that, I don't know, they haven't calculated for how long they should water it, but for example, you can see that these lawns, they are just flooded. They are totally flooded. It's not good. I mean, it's not good even for plants. Too much water is never good. Yes, so you can see that. And in fact, this is not good for plants, this is not good for the water infrastructure, this is net negative thing to do. And these things should be changed, in fact. And one of the ways to bring some positive impact here to change this problem is, in fact, first of all, fix them. Simply by fixing them, fixing their positioning, fixing the flow, or calculating actually for how long you should water the lawn, you can already take away all of these problems, basically. But the next problem is Uzbekistan is already a water-stressed country, meaning we have too many people and too little water, and we're going to have problems with it in coming future. So that's why we should start caring about it already from now on. But instead, we are using the water that can be drunk by people, on lawns, on plants, and plants don't need that clean water. So the solution for that could be using another source of water, not drinking water, but for example, rainwater. And the mechanism is pretty much simple, it's very straightforward. So the water, the rain falls on the roof of buildings, and from the roofs of buildings you collect that rain, and you collect everything in such containers. And then from these containers you can already have some small tubes, and these tubes will go in the direction of the plants in order to irrigate your lawns. And during the times when you don't have any rainfall, you can use the stored water from the past rain and irrigate your lawn. So in fact, this is quite innovative way of using rainwater, because right now, for example, in Tashkent, all the rainwater is just collected, it's treated, and it's gone through the and it's just discharged into the river. In fact, we could use that rainwater at the buildings. As soon as it falls on the roof, we could use it, but we're not doing it right now, and it's not good. Or for example, you can also look that there is another engineering solution. So yes, the water is flowing. Oh, sorry. And already in this one you have some filters and you have some filters, and you can already install, for example, some pumps, and you can pump the water up to your lawn or even for your house. And in fact, it's a very great, serious thing to do. Yes. So, or another way we waste our water is during during flushing toilets or using laundry. For example, do you know that even in order to flush your toilet, we are using drinking water? We're using drinking water to flush our toilet. We can use any water with sensible turbidity to flush our toilet. It doesn't have to be of drinking quality. And in fact, in order to make that water of drinking quality, we waste so much money, and then we don't even drink it, we use it for toilets. It's just so not logical. And then there is also another way, laundry. For laundry as well, you don't need the water of that high quality. In fact, you need, for example, the water of very high quality is the water that doesn't have microbes, bacteria, is the water that is free from salts, but you don't need that kind of water for toilets or for laundry. But we're using that drinking water for these purposes as well, and that's not correct either. In fact, if you look at your expenses, at your water expenses in your house, then around 40% of them is being used on toilet. Like 40% of all the water that you use is being used on toilet, and also the rest is also being used on laundry. If we could use rainwater instead for these things, then that could be even more beneficial, don't you think so? And in fact, this design has also been considered by many engineers. For example, here you can see as well already a rainwater collection system under the ground. And you can see that the rainwater collection system under the ground is in fact even more beneficial. And for example, it can be already installed at your house and connected with your laundry and with your toilet, for example, here, and used in that way. And this is also a pretty good way. So, but yes, and it could save so much water, and conversely, so much money to the government, to the people, to everyone. It could save a lot of water for everyone. And in fact, there are countries that are doing it. For example, in Australia, they had a drought, meaning time simply with no water, no rain, no water from rivers, simply a 10 years of drought they had, when their water resources were drying up. And in those moments, they couldn't even provide drinking water to their citizens. So there were times when the water wouldn't just come. You open the faucet, but the water doesn't come. There were such moments. And one of the innovative things that Australian citizens did on their own is installing this water collecting systems, rainwater harvesting systems, in fact, they are called. And yeah, you can see a real house in Australia using this system. And in fact, there are a lot of houses in Australia that use this system. Or for example, Singapore. Singapore is such a small country. It doesn't even have its own water resources. The only water source that it relies on is rainwater, and the rest of the water the Singapore buys from its neighbors. And it's horrible. It's terrible. It's the situation in Singapore is even worse than in Uzbekistan. That's why you gotta be really careful. But even in such moments, Singapore is finding its way. For example, here you can see this is the airport. If I'm not mistaken, yes, this is the airport that is so green inside, and it has indoor waterfall. This has indoor waterfall, and in fact, do you know from where this water comes? From rainwater. So they harvest this water, this rainwater, and then it's poured inside. Yes, and all the source of this water is rainwater. And in fact, not only in this building, but throughout the whole city, Singapore collects every drop of rain, treats it, and converts it into drinkable water. It's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. But yes, when you have this much low water in your country, you use every source very wisely, and this is what they did. This is what they did. So also amazing. I think it's also amazing. And in fact, there are even more countries that are doing these things. For example, there is Brazil, and Brazil also has a lot of households that have rainwater harvesting systems. Then Singapore, that I already told about. Then China. China right now is introducing the concept of sponge cities, where cities absorb every water that comes that falls on their land. And right now China is also doing a lot of progress, and they basically use the rainwater for domestic use like toilet flushing and laundry, and also for agriculture, but not for drinking. Then we have Germany. Germany uses rainwater for toilet flushing, irrigation, green roofs, and car washing. And also Australia. Well, Australia use a lot. Australia really depends on its rainwater harvesting systems. And these countries have already achieved these results. Why can't Tashkent do it? Why can't Uzbekistan do it? In fact, right? So, all of these things that we just learned, that in fact, having a habit of collecting the rain or installing these rainwater harvesting systems is important, but is there a way to calculate it? Because just by saying, oh, this is important, you cannot prove it to government officials, you cannot prove it to other people. However, what you can prove it with is by calculations. If you calculate how much money you can save by using rainwater collection systems, then you can as well show to the government that in fact this much money can be saved, and the saved money can be invested for other purposes, in fact. And so I did it. I tried to calculate. For example, what I did is I tried to imagine that what would happen if the whole Tashkent would have rainwater harvesting systems all around the city, and they would use this water in order to irrigate their lawns. What would happen, and how much water could we save by not irrigating the lawns with drinkable water but with rainwater that we collected throughout the year? And this is basically the calculation. For example, I found that on average we spent around 7 liters of water in order to irrigate 1 square meter of land per day. And in Tashkent, there is around 53 square kilometers of land that needs irrigation. These are the green zones in Tashkent that need watering. And then throughout the city, in fact, we irrigate the lawns for around 210 days. Yes, and that water that we pay for to irrigate the lands, it costs around 3,700, not 3.7, but 3,700 Uzbekistan. And if you just multiply all of these numbers, and of course, first of all, convert them to the right units, right? And then multiply, then you can see that simply by watering land with rainwater, not drinking water, you can in fact save around 313 billion Uzbek som. It's a huge, 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 enormous money. In fact, this money is enough to build a whole water treatment plant for around 100,000 people. Can you imagine if for 1 year Tashkent just harvest rainwater to irrigate its lawns? We could save up this much money and then build another whole water treatment plant for the saved money. This is just amazing, and this is crazy that we're not doing that. Of course, in order to build rainwater harvesting systems, you should also have some capital investment. But in fact, once you build those things, they're going to save you so much money that you can build so many more things with that. And this is huge. This is amazing. This is inspiring as well, that we should start doing it as soon as possible. And basically, that's it. And for your homework for this part of the lecture, what I would like you to do is do the same, but for toilet flushing and laundry. Try calculating how much water could the whole population of Tashkent save if they would use rainwater instead of drinking water in order to flush their toilets and for the laundry. And yeah, and as always, shoot a video where you are explaining this. It can be either the screen of your laptop if you do it on laptop, or it can be a piece of paper. It can be anything. And the format of submitting is video. So you can do pretty much the same thing. You can just look at the data and calculate how much, for example, water do we use in order to flush our toilets and do the laundry per person. Then you already know the population of Tashkent. Then you multiply it by the number of days in 1 year, and then you multiply it by the price of water, and then you already have the amount of water that people need for toilet flushing and for laundry. And from that, you can already see how much water everyone could save. And that is truly, that thing will be truly huge, because we use way more water in order to flush our toilets and do the laundry than for the irrigation. That's why your numbers, I guess, should be higher than the numbers that I have here. So, which means for the money saved, we could build way more great, cool things. Yes, but we should save that money. Yes. And having said that, let's go to the second part of the lecture, which is the official topic of today's lecture, and it's about the future careers in the sector of water. So, where can you work? You have heard these lectures for a whole week, and hopefully you really were interested in these water topics. Yes. And now, if some of you have the desire to come into this sector and start working in this sector, then where could you start? Where and what are the organizations in Uzbekistan where you could start working? Basically, there are a lot of organizations where a person interested in water can work. And in fact, they can even have very different professions. You can be engineer, you can be scientist, you can be economist, you can be a lawyer, you can be politician, you can be anyone and still work in the water sector. For example, if you are good with management and if you are good with managing people and so on, you can work in some of the government bodies. For example, the very first prominent one is Ministry of Water Resources, and Ministry of Water Resources doesn't just have engineers and scientists. They have lawyers, they have IT people, they have financial people, they have whom also they have educators as well, they have international people, they have people from all sorts of backgrounds. Then there is also Usutaminot. So Usutaminot is the organization that provides water and wastewater, and the same for them. They need engineers, they need people who can count the water, like who can work in the water accountancy. They also need economists, they need strong IT people, they also need a lot of things. Then we also have Ministry of Ecology. There you could work as a scientist, as a researcher, as chemical analyst, but also someone like environmental scientist. You could predict how much water will be coming the next year. You could predict the quality of rivers and so on. So Ministry of Ecology is also a very important place. There is also Uzhydromet. It's already a research institution, and there you would go only if you are a scientist, if you like science, if you like working in the lab. Then there is also Uzagroinspekcija places, so they basically deal with monitoring the water in the agriculture places, in the fields near the farmers. So, but basically it's also most likely analytical job. Yes. Then if you like, for example, international organizations, you would want to travel a lot and you would want to work in projects that have international impact, then you could work in such places as World Bank. World Bank finances a lot of projects in the sector of water throughout the world, not only in Uzbekistan. Then there is also Asian Development Bank that has the same purpose. There is UNDP, United Nations Development Program, and UNDP also provides a lot of finance for water related projects, and you could be there as a water specialist, as a consultant as well. There is also a very big research institution called IVMI. This is International Water Management Institution. So basically, if you're a scientist, then this is one of the top places to go to. There is also GIZ, German Society for International Cooperation, and basically they usually have the finance of the Germany, and they can spend it, they can use it for all sorts of things, including water. USAID, well, basically USAID is already closed, so no way to go there. Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation. There is also OSCE organizations, UNESCO as well. It has a lot of projects in groundwater, and it does a lot of scientific cooperation too. So these are the international places where you could work. Then there are also some private sectors and engineering firms. For example, all of them you can see here. And if you are an engineer, if you want to build things, then it's one of the great places to go to. Yes. And then, for example, if you really like research and you're more into discovering things, discovering new materials, then there are research and scientific institutions like TMA. In TMA, you're gonna be a real engineer. They can teach you how to build huge, massive hydrological constructions like dams, reservoirs, treatment plants. Then there is also SANIRI, Scientific Research Institute for Irrigation and Water Problems. In this place, basically, they have a lot of great researchers, and these researchers deal with problems of water, they deal with problems of drainage water, and many other things. And also, uh, there are other institutions, research institutions, that one could go in order to work for. Yes, so this is just a very small glimpse of things you can do in water, but basically there is a huge amount of work that needs to be done in the sector of water, and sector of water is one of the most underrepresented sectors in Uzbekistan, meaning it's what this sector is one of the most crucial one of the most crucial fields in Uzbekistan, and yet uh, so overlooked. We are being interested right now in water, and it's so good that we the young generation right now are being interested in this sector, but still, for example, much higher portion of us are still going for IT or medicine or economists, when actually the jobs that bring one of the greatest impacts is here in the sector of water. And yes, so um, these things, these places could be the ones to where you could go in order to find your future place in this world. Yeah. So, with this being said, I would like to thank you. This was the last lecture of of HogwartsX courses. I congratulate you that you came to all of the lectures, that you listened through, that you learned everything, and thank you a lot. And I really, really hope that this was really helpful for you.